I would be out there like carrying sacks on my back, carrying crates, and oh. Welcome to my channel. My name is Dinawa Modika, and if you're new here, this is a channel for all things crop production. But if you're returning and a subscriber, thank you so much for commenting, thank you for liking, and thank you for coming back. So I thought I would answer the question, how the hell did I get here, right? So how did I end up in agriculture? It started in grade 6. I think the bug bit me when I was in grade 6. Because in grade 6, I think that's when we started being serious at home about chores. So we'd have indoor chores, would be cleaning, bathrooms, dishes, things like that, right? But I didn't like any of that. I didn't like dishes, I didn't like cleaning the house, I didn't like anything. No, I didn't like chores. So I always gravitated towards my father when he was busy outside in the garden. So I went with him outside, and we spent a lot of days outside in the sun, planting, gardening. He was teaching me all these hacks about what to plant when, how to irrigate, how much to irrigate, how do you know it has enough water, and things like that. I joined him. He taught me how to do seed beds. He told me how to irrigate, how many times to irrigate, when to irrigate. So the love started there, right? And then I moved on to high school, where you then had to choose whether you're doing commercial subjects or if you're going to be taking the science stream. And of course I took science, right? I took life science because my father was actually a life science teacher, and I loved it from there, right? And also I loved that we could actually engage. Whenever I come back home, there's a topic that we discussed in class, I could engage with him on it. So that started there. Then we would go on for hours and hours talking about life science, talking about plants, talking about everything that was discussed. He would give me test papers, he would give me questions, and I would need to answer them, and then we would talk about them. Why did I get this wrong? How do you explain this? How do you do that? How do you do that, right? And so we would go on for hours and hours talking about it. And then we also go in the weekends, go out in the garden, planting that, gardening and everything. I started giving it more focus than all my other subjects, right? And then I loved it. I realized I actually love this, right? So by the time I finished grade 12, I already knew that I needed to do something in life science. Well, I didn't need to, but I would have loved to, right? And then I found out there's this thing such as old crop production, right? Plant production, essentially. And then I applied for it with the University of Limpopo, and upon applying for it, it was my first option. My second option was law. But I went for agri. I loved it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I went for agri, got the acceptance, the provisional acceptance letter. I got the acceptance letter. As soon as I got my matric results, that same day I went to uni, and I went to sort out my things, and I was ready, set, go, right? But I had applied to 2 universities. I had applied to NMMU and University of Limpopo. I wanted to go to NMMU, not UL. But anyway, my parents was like, nah, it makes sense, it's closer, la da da da, yeah da 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 da, yeah. So I went to University of Limpopo. And then I decided, I actually love agriculture, so let me take agriculture, and then I'll do law later in life, right? But I really loved it. Even studying it and doing practicals, I actually took what I studied from school and I went back to apply it with my dad. And I think I grew to love it from there, right? But I didn't particularly know if there was a career in such. And then it got hard, guys, especially when it started going at like second level. No, third year. Third year and fourth year was the hardest years, right? I think I had a subject called plant production or something like that, and we did scientific names. Your girl did not like scientific names. I couldn't for the life of me memorize them, especially because most of them are Latin, right? I could not memorize them for the life of me. I just couldn't. But I decided, you know what? Let me actually challenge the teacher, because I had failed the test. So the lecturer came in and I'm like, I don't think a farmer is going to ask me what cabbage is, what the cabbage scientific name is. I was so wrong. I was so wrong. Anyway, she's like, no, now you failed it. I'm not gonna change it, and it's still going to be in the exam, so you need to memorize it. I couldn't memorize it, but anyway, I passed that course, so it's fine. But it was that challenge for me. I couldn't memorize the scientific name. That was third level. Final level, was it final or third? I can't remember, but between third and fourth level, there was another course, mechanization. That was the hardest course ever. Ugh. And what was hard about it was that the lecturer did not set the test totaling to 100 marks. He would set it to totaling to like 10 marks or 15 marks. Literally, the test paper would come and it's just 2 questions. I remember there was a question about explain how the engine of a tractor works. And then I explained in my own words, and he's like, nope, please be technical. He gave me 5 marks. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, you know what? I passed it. It's 50%. Let's move on with our lives, right? And even when the going got tough, I remember I'd go home and I'd say, the person that wanted me to not study an MMU and wanted me to go to UL must go and write that course, or must go and finish that test. And my parents took it as a joke. And funny enough, it came back to bite me, because when I finished my degree, my mother was like, maybe this degree actually belongs to the person that told you to go and study at UL. Oh man. So yeah, so fast forward, I finished varsity and I went on to do my graduate placement program. And can I tell you, that was the year that tested me so much, because I then realized, I think because of that year was the one year where it sort of kind of made it easy for me to determine which route I wanted my career to take, right? Because I got exposure in seed breeding, I got exposure in seed testing, I got exposure in field management, I'm gonna say management, and then I got exposure also in nursery management. And then I realized I actually love being out in the field. I hated every second of being in the lab. I got so frustrated. I felt like it was the longest months of my life, but anyway, I had to do it. And I think if I had not gone in the lab, I wouldn't understand how some processes actually work, and why it's so important if you're producing your own seed, how it's so important to test things like purity, moisture, blah blah blah. Yeah. But I got to understand why, and so I didn't loathe it as much. But I think that was my most unhappy phase of my career life, right? And then cool, I then decided, you know what, I'm perhaps a field person. Went to the field. I loved being at the field, especially because it was harvest time. It was you needed to take results. We were doing trials and things like that. I loved it. I loved being at the field. I loved the technical support. I loved the product development wing of it. I liked the product development side of it as well. I loved it. I actually loved being out there. But I remember there were times when it got tough. Times weed season got tough. Times when we were harvesting, like peak seasons just got tough. I remember one time I was with a friend or a colleague of mine, and she said to me, do you know what, do you really think we went to varsity for 4 years to come and sit and bask in the sun like this? I'm like, yep. I'm like, yep, honey, you actually did. You went to varsity for 4 years so that you can come and bask in the sun, so that you can be able to produce and people can be able to eat. And don't get me wrong, I was feeling the same way that she was feeling, right? And you get home very tired. You literally eat, you shower, you pass out, and then tomorrow it's the same thing over and over again. So I There were some things that I hated because I did not understand. For instance, 2 things. Even till this day, I still would not want to do this first one. Grading. I hated grading. I hated it. It was harvesting, so you spend the whole day harvesting, and then after that you need to go and grade. So there's stencil, so you grade, quality, texture, color, you observe all those things, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I hate grading. But once I started saying, listen, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my program, for the term of my program. Why am I grading? Why is it so important? And when I went back to do my research, I understood that, okay, if this falls within a particular grade, then the pricing can be that. You know, it sort of kind of limits you here and there. But it was in me understanding how all those processes work that I began to say, okay, I need to do this. The second one was weeding. Yo, guys, weeding was the pit. Yo, weeding was the pit. I remember I was tired. It was hot. You weed this week, next week they are back, you need to go back to the same field and weed again. It was so tiring. It was so tiring. It was hours in the sun, but I was like, let me apply myself. So one day I weeded. One day I said, you know what, let me actually do this and see. So I applied myself. I weed, and my blocks were clean. And I didn't know that actually my farm manager at the time was actually looking at me. And then he came to me when I was done and he's like, your block is very clean, you're neat, you're fast, you actually applied yourself, good job. And I was like, shucks, just for weeding. So I think it's those little things that kept on validating that I actually do love this, I enjoy this, right? I want to see there's certain things that I don't like about it, but there's certain things that I do like about it. And even after he said that, I went back and I sat down and I said, why do we weed? Why do we need to weed? What are some of the methods that can come out that would make weeding easily, or that would completely avoid weeding? But I would have never learned that had I not hated it so much, right? Had I stayed in that state of, yeah, then things wouldn't have, you know. But yeah, and I applied myself, I weeded, and yeah, I did that. And then fast forward, I'm digressing. Fast forward, I went to product development and technical support side, and I was dealing with a whole product range of vegetables. I was doing brassicas, I was doing cucurbits, I was doing root crops, I was doing leafy crops, I was doing what's this other one? Tomatoes, peppers, and solanus. I was doing tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants, sweet corn. I got exposure in all of the product range, like all the vegetables that you can think of, radish, turnips, lettuce, every single thing that you can think of. And I was like, shucks. That was when my mind opened up. I was like, I love this. I really, really love this. I could not believe it. I would get home so tired. I would know that there's certain seasons throughout the year where my skin, I'm a dark person, okay, but where my skin already takes a darker skin tan. But I loved it. I loved it. I loved how tired I got after after a day. I loved it. Yo, I loved it. Those who know me would know. I'll be out there like carrying sacks on my back, carrying crates, and oh. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Even if you see the pictures of me now and then, I was darker. I feel like I was shorter as well. I completely loved it. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the fact that somebody would come along and teach me a skill, and the skill will stay with me. And I would go out and I would still apply it outside of that person. So I didn't need them anymore. Once I was taught what I was taught, I would then be able to make my own food, which meant that the key problem that I've always had a conviction with, such as food security, we would then solve such problems, because then if people can make their own food and become sustainable and self-sufficient, then we're getting somewhere, right? I loved it. I completely loved it. I then believed that if people know better, they will do better. But people are not doing better because they don't know what to do, right? And all this knowledge that you're gonna get, either from my videos or somewhere else, if you can apply them diligently, you're not gonna fail, because you know the principles that govern a thing, right? So I loved it. I completely fell in love with technical support. I completely fell in love with product development. I realized that I loved interacting with people on the farm. I loved figuring out what was wrong and how do we solve it. You know, I loved working in the field. I loved working outside. I loved the exposure to farmers and what their problems were and how can I go about solving them, right? So I knew that my career would have to take a direction where I'm dealing with people and I'm still within the agri space. And so even if I was now to think about my second option, which was law, it's not at the top of my head. It's not something that I say I regret not doing, because I love what I do and I find fulfillment in it, right? I am passionate about what I do. I'm an agricultural enthusiast and I love what I do, you know, and it literally falls into the conviction that I have for food security and poverty alleviation. So I loved it. I completely loved it. I need to stop saying that. I loved what I do. I loved being here. I loved solving problems for farmers that had issues. I loved the technical support side of it, and I loved the product development side of it. I genuinely love agriculture. So that's my journey. That's how I got into it. But actually, let me know how you got into agri. Tell me your story in the comment section and let me know, how did you end up in it? Were you somebody that was passionate about it and now you've lost that passion? Or were you somebody that was not passionate but now you actually are growing to love it? Sometimes you never know. You lose the passion as you go by. You just need to surround yourself with people that genuinely love what they do so that they can sort of rub off of on you, right? So yeah, do let me know in the comment section. Thank you so much for joining me in this video and I hope you like it. But don't forget to subscribe so that whenever I upload a video, you actually get alerted of it. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me and I'll see you in another video.